Today I want to do something a little bit different because I am still fighting bad weather in Miami. So yes, I'm inside. Don't worry, it's not going to be permanent. In about a week from now, I'm going to be in California. All my videos will be outside. But for now, we got to deal with the pouring rain. And I want to watch this video with you guys that was on CNN. And I'm not like a regular CNN viewer or anything like that. But it's about a CEO from a tech company basically telling people how unemployment is going to go through the roof because of AI. And I like to hear some of the things he has to say and discuss it here in this video. So let's take a look.
Dario, you've said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level white-collar jobs and spike unemployment to 10 to 20%. How soon might that happen?
Well, let's, well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. But just to back up a little bit, I've been building AI for over a decade. And I think maybe the most salient feature of the technology and what is driving all of this is how fast the technology is getting better. A couple of years ago, you could say that AI models were maybe as good as a smart high school student. I would say that now they're as good as a smart college student and sort of reaching past that. I really worry, particularly at the entry level, that the AI models are very much at the center of what an entry-level human worker would do. And so it's hard to estimate, exactly what the impact would be. And there's always this question of adaptation. And these technology changes have happened before, but I think what is striking to me about this AI boom is that it's bigger and it's broader and it's moving faster than anything has before. And so compared to previous technology changes, I'm a little bit more worried about the labor impact simply because it's happening so fast that yes, people will adapt, but they may not adapt fast enough. And so there may be an adjustment period.
So that's exactly what's happening right now. Whatever he said is spot on. Right now, which sector of the economy are you seeing the largest amounts of layoffs in right now? It is the tech sector. It is white collar jobs, people earning six figures or multiple six-figure a year incomes that are being laid off from tech firms because number one, these tech companies hired way too many people during the pandemic and now they are shedding them as their businesses are not doing nearly as good as before and they have much higher carrying costs because companies use debt. And they use floating rate debt in order to pay for things in their business. And debt was cheap at the beginning of the pandemic. Well, now it's not. And a lot of these companies have to refinance debt. At the same time, their sales are going down. So they have to get rid of people. And to make things even worse for people who in the tech space, you have guys like this saying the AI models are now just as smart as a college graduate, which makes even going to college and getting a degree kind of useless from that standpoint. That's the thing that we were taught to do is go to college, you're going to get a good job, and that's going to be the thing that's going to sustain you. That's how you're going to be able to make a lot of money. However, apparently AI is going to be able to take the place of just about everybody now. So I don't know. What else do you have to say?
Running an incredibly important company in AI, and this better than anybody, or as well as all the names we know, people, Sam Altman and others who are working, Elon Musk in AI. Why are you raising the alarm? Because it's not necessarily, I would think, in your best interest. Because a lot of the messages we hear from, at least publicly, from some AI CEOs and stuff is a little bit more calming, like these agents are going to be great in your life, and yes, there may be problems, but writ large, this is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I'm raising the alarm is that I think others haven't as much, and I think someone needs to say it. To be clear, and I recognize it's always a difficult balance, right? I'm aware of my position that I'm building this technology while also expressing concerns about it, and the reason I'm doing both of those things is one, I think the benefits are massive. And we need to find a way to achieve the benefits and mitigate.
That's one key point right there I want to bring up. The benefits are massive. For who? Right? That's what people need to understand. Who is the benefits massive for? Is it for these companies so they can increase productivity, increase their profit margins, increase the value for their shareholders? Yeah, definitely. Is it good for people who are losing jobs to AI or are going to make less money because of AI at a time when inflation is a huge problem? No. And it's like, to me, The whole thing with AI, it has to be like, if you are going to create something that's supposed to be good and supposed to be productive and supposed to help society, it should have more pros than cons, right? And there are a lot of pros to it. I can see there are things in our daily lives that AI can do now that, we couldn't do just a few years ago, like he was saying. However, is it going to be worth it? And how far is this going to go? The exponential growth, like this guy mentioned in the beginning, is probably one of the biggest concerns, right? If it's already as smart as a college graduate, where's it going to be in 5 years? It's probably going to be smarter than every human on the planet ever. And, could be looking at Terminator situations, where it's creating itself. It's making it so that it's not able to be shut down anymore, things like that. It makes you wonder, where is this going, right? You don't know how far this can go. And we just have to look at sci-fi movies from the 80s, for God's sake, to see how far it goes. Like, I always go back to Terminator. That movie was made in 1981, something like that, before I was even born. And already back then, James Cameron, the director of the movie, could see that this could be what the future would be like if AI were to get out of control. So this is not a new concept by any means. It's already getting out of control from the point of view that it's replacing people, and maybe it's starting to create more problems than it solves. So maybe think about that.
And mitigate or prevent the harms. And the second thing I would say is, look, there are, as you mentioned, 6 or 7 companies in the US building this technology, right? If we stop doing it tomorrow, the rest would continue. If all of us somehow stopped doing it tomorrow, then China would just beat us. And I don't think China winning in this technology is, I don't think that helps anyone or makes the situation any better.
That's the next point, right? Well, if we don't do it, then somebody else will. China's going to do it, right? The fact of the matter is that nobody should be doing it, and I understand we can't control the whole world. So it's like one of those notions where if we can't beat them, then join them. I think that's what this guy is saying. Like, we have no choice but to pursue this as a nation so we don't get left behind. But at the same time, we are going to be sacrificing the greater good of everybody and possibly our even economy or maybe even existence in the future because we just need to be the first ones to the table.
I do want to read something that Sam Altman, your former boss at OpenAI, said in September. He was saying that AI can cause significant, in his words, significant change in labor markets, good and bad. He went on to say that most jobs will change more slowly than most people think. And then he said this, and I want to just read it word for word. He said, many of the jobs we do today would have looked like trifling wastes of time to people a few hundred years ago. But nobody is looking back at the past wishing they were a lamplighter. If a lamplighter could see the world today, he would think the prosperity all around him was unimaginable. And if we could fast forward 100 years from today, the prosperity all around us would feel just as unimaginable.
Now that's a great quote. I like that. That is a good vision that Sam Altman has, and I understand where he's coming from. That definitely gives you hope and belief that in the future, 100 years from now, all the things that AI is going to be able to do with robotics and, taking care of tasks and jobs that people don't want to do. But if AI is taking care of 80% of the tasks, let's say, that people don't want to do anymore, well, then what are people going to do? What are going to be the jobs that people are going to do? This is the thing that you have to think about, right? Like, what are people going to be doing when 80% of people are no longer necessary? How are they going to make money? Are we going to go to a universal basic income model and then, the government's just in control of how much money everybody has now? Is that the right solution? Is that the answer to this? All the New World Order people out there are probably cheering this on big time.
For younger people, I should say lamplighters was actually a job. People went around lighting lamps on the streets. I think a lot of people may not even know what a lamplighter is. But do you think Sam Altman is wrong?
Yeah, so, I think there are some things I agree with about that. And then there are some things that I think are too optimistic. So, I definitely agree that, AI, if we succeed at it, can grow the pie greatly, right? I wouldn't be surprised if economic growth is much higher than it is today as a macroscopic phenomenon, right? That AI allows society as a whole to be more productive. So
let me just say, because you've previously in the past said you've described a future where cancer is cured, the economy grows at 10% a year, the budget is balanced, and 20% of people don't have jobs.
That's exactly what I was getting to, right? Where I agree with all the positive potential. I think that isn't wrong. But I think the quote you just flashed is maybe too optimistic, maybe too sanguine about the ability for people to adapt. People have adapted to past technological changes, but I'll say again, everyone I've talked to has said this technological change looks different. It looks faster. It looks harder to adapt to. It's broader. The pace of progress keeps catching people off guard. And so I don't know exactly how fast, the job concerns are going to come. I don't know how fast people are going to adapt. It's possible it'll all be okay. But I think that's too sanguine an approach. I think we do need to be raising the alarm. I think we do need to be concerned about it. I think policymakers do need to worry about it. If they do worry and they do act, then maybe we can prevent it. But we're not going to prevent it just by saying everything's going to be okay.
Do we as a society even understand the potential inequalities that this may amplify? And also the impact just on I have little kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. What do they grow up aspiring to if machines can do pretty much everything better? What does it do to initiative or drive or striving? And I don't know the answer to that,
Yes.
but it concerns me.
Let's take those questions one by one. Those do concern me, but I do have thoughts on them. In terms of inequality, I'm worried about this. There's an inherent social contract in democracy where ultimately, the ordinary person has a certain amount of leverage because they're contributing to the economy. If that leverage goes away, then it's hard to make democracy. It's harder to make democracies work, and it's harder to prevent concentration of power. And so, we need to make sure that the ordinary person maintains economic leverage and has a way to make a living, or our society, our social contract won't work. And that's why I think it's important.
During testing, your company's latest chatbot, Claude 4, was capable of what was described as extreme blackmail. Specifically, I understand it threatened to reveal an engineer's extramarital affair when it was told it would be taken offline and replaced. This was a simulation. Were you surprised by that? And what does that, that freaked me out when I read that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so just to be clear and to put this in context, this was, as you said, a behavior that emerged during kind of extreme testing of the model. So if you were to make an analogy to, cars, this is like, you deliberately put the car on the iciest road possible, you mess with the brakes, and, you do that so you can see if you really stress test the thing, you can, then you can make the crash dummy blow up.
Right.
So this isn't something that the model does in practice and actual usage. But the reason we stress test the models this way is, that's the best way to test for and prevent problems in the real world. So
right.
Icy roads do exist.
Okay, well, I guess that's the best way to prevent the problems, is to create the problem and see how it reacts to the problem, right? But if these AIs are getting so smart, they're already just as smart as a college student that graduated, and they're going to be even smarter than that exponentially in 5 more years from now. Who's to say that the AI won't be smart enough to just have a back door in the AI system so humans think that it's acting one way, but in reality, it has a whole other sentient being aspect to it in the back end where it can blackmail people. It can, figure out ways to get rid of us and eliminate us and things like that. Like, I know that sounds just like the movies or whatever, but based on these things that they're saying, it sounds like that's exactly the direction we're heading in. And going back to the unemployment thing, saying 20% of people are going to be unemployed, well, he even said himself that continually people are failing to adapt. People are continually not really seeing the writing on the wall in terms of how fast this is catching up and how fast the technology is progressing. And so if that's the case, then who's to say that the unemployment is not going to go far beyond that? Can you imagine? Think about this, guys. The worst recession we had in modern history was the 2008 Great Recession. Unemployment rate in the United States reached 10%. And it was like the end of days in some places. You saw businesses closing, tons of foreclosures for sale, things like that. This guy's talking 20%, and that might be On the conservative side, as far as an estimate goes, like what are things going to look like if it's actually beyond that 20, 30, 40% unemployment? What does the world look like? And where is the government going to get all this money to essentially print and put into people's pockets with universal basic income if all of these people need money and they can't actually contribute money to the system? Right now, income taxes are the largest way that governments make money, at least here in the United States. And if that goes, down by 30 or 40% because the people who used to work no longer have a job, where are they going to get this money from to begin with to distribute to everybody, right? This is another case for me why you should own gold and silver and really any other type of physical asset. I think it's good to own real estate too. Do I think it's a great time to buy real estate? No. But, is it better than hanging on to cash? Probably. Real estate certainly has a much better track record when it comes to cash. A lot of people like crypto as well. I own crypto. Do I think it's going to be the end all be all? Not really. There's still no tangible or physical asset aspect to owning crypto. So I still think that owning something physical that people are always going to need or want that's going to retain value is going to be the ultimate asset to hold. If you're not on that ladder now, you better get on it. Whether that means buying $30 worth of silver right now. If you have a couple extra $1,000 to invest, buy some gold. But it's not looking good. And even if you have that stuff, and you're somebody who ends up unemployed in the future, who knows how long that's going to last you in the future, but at least it's better than nothing, right? It's better to have some sort of backup plan and some sort of insurance because we don't know how far out of control this is going to get.
Yeah. No, but exactly. You want to turn every adversarial condition up to the max all at once.
Right.
And it's only by testing in that way that you get the model to not do that in the real world. So I wasn't surprised by these behaviors, but this is an example of how we have to be very careful in how we take control of AI systems.
I mean, the obvious question is, does that pretend AI becoming self-aware? And could that lead to dire consequences?
I certainly don't exclude the concept. We have a couple people who are actually working on this topic. Well, as crazy as it sounds, of do AI systems have morally significant feelings? I would guess that they don't right now. But when you run an AI company, these crazy seeming questions are things that you study. So I would say this is probably not the case now. But again, the field is advancing so fast that I don't think you can exclude even crazy sounding things like this.
What are practical steps people should take to be prepared? I mean, ordinary citizens, me, lawmakers, what do you advise?
Yeah,
particularly lawmakers, I guess, really.
Yeah, well, let's take them one by one. I think for ordinary citizens, I think it's very important, learn to use AI, learn to understand where the technology is going. If you're not blindsided, you have a much better chance of adapting. There's some, better world, at least in the short term, at least for now, we should take it bit by bit where everyone learns to use AI better. And that speeds up the adaptation that is definitely going to happen eventually, but it'll be less painful if it happens quickly. For lawmakers, I would say really be aware of these issues. And, we're trying very hard to produce data on the economic impact, not taking off the table, some fairly radical notions. Like I wouldn't exclude the notion of, levying a tax on AI companies, right? If AI creates huge total wealth, a lot of that will by default go to the AI companies and less to ordinary people. And so, definitely not in my economic interest to say that, but I think this is something we should consider. And, I think it shouldn't be a partisan thing.
Well, there you have it. Most of the money is going to go to the AI people. That's exactly what he just said. And by the way, does anybody else think that this guy looks like Rick Moranis from the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids movie? He's got that same exact look, man, with the curly hair and the glasses and everything. And he invented the thing to shrink the kids. Anyways, now they're trying to shrink everybody out of existence. So guess this character's coming back to life. The problems are real, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm trying to adapt a little bit too. Like, for example, like when I started this YouTube channel, AI wasn't really a thing, didn't really exist in any meaningful way. Lately, I have an AI video editor that helps me chop up my video clips a lot faster than I can do it on my own, which helps me edit my videos faster. So that's a nice thing. Doesn't really do much else besides that, but cuts down my editing time by like an hour a day. So that's good. ChatGPT I use to review different documents or look at different news stories for me and give me some of the highlights to help me create these videos. So yeah, does it have some useful things that you can, use in your daily life? Sure. Is it revolutionary at this point? I don't think so. I definitely think it does boost productivity, and by using it, like he said, you can prevent yourself from maybe getting left behind in the dust. But if things keep going exponentially, it's going to get to a point where even the learning curve and understanding, like, how can this even practically be implemented for you or your business or your job, might be beyond comprehension, right? Maybe that's the point that this gets to. I don't know, because you see a lot of these AI programs get developed without any real instructions, right, of how to use it. Yeah, sure, people make YouTube videos and things like that, but it's not like it's well-known information or common knowledge of how to use these programs or the best way to use them or the best way to, get the most productivity out of them. There's a lot of unknowns still. So if things weren't already uncertain enough, it's just going to continue to become more uncertain with this situation. So let's see, man, 10 to 20% unemployment, I think that's being nice. And even that is catastrophic compared to anything that we have seen in modern history. So get ready. That's all I got to say. I know this is something different, but hey, it's raining, so I figured I'd try it. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe for more of my outside videos that are going to be coming soon. And if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.